You are listening to the Screen to Screen Selling Talk Show hosted by Doug DeVitri, your source to increasing sales, productivity, and the customer experience. In each show, we will sit down with world-class thought leaders to discuss latest trends, innovative concepts, and ideas to keep you ahead of the curve using the latest technology.
Welcome back, everyone, to the show. Very special guest today, Bill Haskins, Principal Analyst at Wayne House Research, one of the leaders in identifying some of the opportunities with unified communications. Bill, welcome to the show today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Let's first start off by talking about what unified communications is, how companies are using it, and then really what some of the trends are moving forward.
Yeah, you got it. So let's just start at the 101 level. What is unified communications? And look, man, I've been in the industry 20 years now, and we can apply the term unified communications. We do to all sorts of stuff. So I'm a purist. My definition of unified communications starts with a pretty specific stack of features. I think that the concept of a platform that gives you presence across your organization, that gives you instant messaging, text-based communications were super important, but then audio, video, and content sharing have really, that grouping has emerged as kind of the table stakes in what a UC platform needs to provide. Conferencing's in there, so I need 3 or more people in this to join one of these interactions. That's the minimum to me of what unified communications is, and it's important because presence by itself enables more efficient communications. Are you available? Should I even call you, or should I just give it a shot? Really speeds up and gives efficiency to actual interactions. Text. We've all realized that I can time slice easier if I have number of text messages up that I can interact with on my own time. I think we've all collectively gotten good and used to that kind of concept. But then escalation, the ability in same frame to say, oh, let's add audio to this. This requires some talking. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's some video. Let me show you my screen. Actually showing you desktop has become right behind text often kind of one of the next most important features. And then let's add Dave. Dave's a smart guy. Let's bring him into the conversation. 3 or more people. That experience, there's a few important things. A, that the ability to escalate up and down that stack really adds value to the communication and the interaction that we have. B, the fact that it's unified is super, super important. I didn't mention directory in here, but it's just part of the conversation. What it does is we say it reduces communications latency, which is a fancy way of saying I don't have to hop between services to get my communication needs met. And there is a switching cost anytime I go to different sources that may seem kind of nascent. It's not that expensive in terms of organizational productivity. It actually is, especially when you aggregate what I just said over 10,000 people, 20,000 people. The guys who do this well, they point to a material savings just in time spent in engaging in these kinds of interactions. It's fascinating.
Let's back up a little bit because I think what we've talked about here are a lot of the different apps and a lot of different features, and I think what many companies have done and are still doing is there's a lot of free apps out there that they're trying to tie in together that really don't talk to one another, and there's a cost of using many different apps that kind of don't talk, and also the time that it takes to be able to adopt. If we can dig deeper into that as far as the cost. What is really the economic impact that we're talking about here?
That's a super interesting question. So I think you're right. I think the IT manager today has one of the hardest jobs out there. Guys, if you're an IT person, I mad respect you. I absolutely respect the challenges in front of you. Some of those core challenges are the kind of power of the consumer, right? The end user who can bring their stack of services in with them these days very easily and cost effectively. The issue that you point out, this UC experience where I can do audio and video and all these things, there's power in those modes of communication, but the greater power is in consistency across the organization. Having pockets of solutions that all do really important, very similar things, audio, video, etc., gives pockets of users access to the tools, but you lose out on some core benefits. Presence is an interesting part of this conversation. but presence, you get the most organizational benefit if you have a consistent platform where you can tell everybody's state of presence across the org. If you have pockets of users, and for me to find out if you're available, I have to go to your presence engine. You start losing out on benefit. I'm back to just calling you and hoping you're there. And then take directory. That's another good example. You don't go to an enterprise and have them say, well, what email domain would you like to use? Oh, I use Gmail. That's what I'll use. And oh, I use Outlook. And what do you want me to use? Having a consistent domain structure gives me the ability to really easily and without thought communicate to everybody in my organization. And you start getting into additional, so you got productivity benefits that happen with consistency, but the cost of support, the cost of training, as users all have access to the same basic feature set, tool set, they become experts, and they don't have to call IT if there's a problem. They call, Dave next door. Dave, how do I share again? Oh yeah, it's easy. I already know. If Dave's using Yahoo and I'm using Google and someone else is using Microsoft, I got to call the help desk. You know what I mean?
No, it's absolutely insane what you're talking about, how IT has to support all of those different functionalities. Impossible. And let's talk about that from a change management perspective, when maybe employees have all these different tools and maybe they don't want to adopt to this new system. How does the leader start to rally the troops to make sure that we're all using that same type of platform?
I talked to many different IT decision makers at various size organizations, and the honest answer is sometimes they don't. Sometimes they can't. It's not the best scenario for those guys, but there are some organizations who have structurally committed to different lines of business and empowered those lines of business to make their own platform decisions. And there are certain levels of IT that have said, I'm going to have Avaya over here and Cisco over here and Microsoft in the middle, and that's what we've organizationally decided to do. And their job is to work their best at interconnecting where it makes sense. And it's just part of their environment. Others, especially very large organizations, say the complexity in my org makes putting platforms in place super, super difficult. All right, let's take those guys and say, yep, that's true. They're off to the side. The ones who've done it best, in my experience, always start with some level of executive top-down commitment. Yeah. There is what we like to call, our friends over at Smart Technologies have done a lot of research in this area. The collaboration champion, the guy or person who's out there and has either been asked or has taken on the mantle of, I'm going to help us collaborate better. Executive level person, it has the ability to say, we're going to fund this. And then we're also going to organizational commit. And then perhaps most importantly, has adapted their own behavior into the new paradigm. Yeah. And then people who are interacting with that leader are all subsumed into this new structure. It happens. The other side of it is, aside from executive commitment, having the right group of partners who will help you understand what really needs to happen to leverage the new solution is more critical now than ever. There are many organizations who get into, best intentions, great strategic vision on what they want to accomplish, start implementing, and realize, oh no, that the cost at the network layer is much more than I anticipated. I have to recondition X. I have to add QoS to switches that are 10 years, blah, blah, blah. And then get mired in, years of incremental decision making that they just didn't anticipate. And I think the guys who are doing it best now come in with eyes open. Let me pull somebody who's done this before in to help me assess what I really need to achieve this, build it correctly, potentially support it. Should I put it in the cloud? All those things.
So it sounds really complicated. How long typically, let's say on average, because there's no silver bullet here, how long does it, if a company identifies a new unified communications platform, how long what's realistic as far as the onboarding to make sure that we're moving, at full speed here?
Yeah, great question. I've seen full sea change in platform, forklift operation. People say forklift doesn't exist. It can, and it does. I've seen those full things happen in literally 6-month windows, end to end. We're going from last generation telephony into a full UC environment. 6 months, everybody on the new system, tested, vetted, working. That use case was a 200-person enterprise. They had 2 core sites. And they did and they were funded. They did a great job. I've spoken to a number of UCaaS providers who often give 18 to 36 month window on average. These guys are usually selling the 1,500 to 2,500 seats, like as a sweet spot. So think of an organization that size, and everything from decision making to implementation to delivery to adoption. Full in 18, 30 to 3 years potentially to get everybody on board. I've spoken to ITDMs at 50,000 person shops who after our consulting conversations are literally looking at a 10-year window. It's hard to tell them that. It's much easier to bite off, well, it'll take you 5 years to get there. But if you look at their ability to spend, their IT budgets that they have historically, what they're going to be able to actually do, and what it's going to take to deploy $20 headsets to 50,000 people. I mean, literally, that can be a center point of the discussion. 50,000 $20 headsets is more than this year's IT budget, right? Like that alone. I didn't even talk platform or network conditioning. And so, they may be looking at a 10-year incremental march. A lot can change in 10 years, right? So, so to say, here's my platform that I'll have deployed in 2026. It can be hard to even make that call at that stage, but. The short answer is it's totally dependent on the enterprise. What's their size? What's their current infrastructure? And probably, as or most importantly, how deep are their pockets? To be totally frank, a lot can be done if you got real deep pockets.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we talk about all these things that we can do. Let's close by sharing one thing not to do when looking at changing an organization into using unified communications.
One thing not to do into going into communications. Most of the user experience issues that I see people having are, in today's solution space, it's not necessarily training. Training's super important. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
It's not in even employee awareness, etc. These solutions are pretty intuitive. It comes down to, does the user have confidence in being able to use this tool? Not what button do I push, but when I have a call, does it always work? Enough times, does it always work? Can I communicate on this thing? And so if it's going to fail, it's often with concerns in that area. And those concerns are usually boiled down to things that could have been caught, should have been caught in an implementation phase. Network conditioning is a big piece. Really understanding, is your data network, is the network you're going to put this traffic on capable of handling the real-time solutions you're putting into it?
Yeah.
And you can answer that now. There are plenty of providers who will help you figure that out before you go in. Peripherals are right in line. If you put out a bunch of, I joke about $20 headsets, save money and give everybody $5 headsets and expect they're going to boat anchor they're going to get rid of their desk phone and realize that, the boom breaks off 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you have confidence in the peripherals and the infrastructure that you're putting these services on. But before you're even worried about, do I know which button to click, etc. All important, but if you haven't done your due diligence up front, you're going to relegate the experience to a small group of users, usually IT. Everyone else, HR will sit out there on their old desk phone for a while.
Well, I encourage everybody to go and check out your website. We're going to link it to the show because I know that you've got many different reports on many different types of technologies, processes, etc. Thank you so much, Bill, for being a part of the show today.
Absolutely, anytime. Again, appreciate that invitation. It was great.
You are listening to the Screen to Screen Selling Talk Show, hosted by Doug DeVitri, your source to increasing sales, productivity, and the customer experience. In each show, we will sit down with world-class thought leaders to discuss latest trends, innovative concepts, and ideas to keep you ahead of the curve using the latest technology.
Are you ready for more meetings in less time with less expense? Screen to Screen Selling has answers. Screen to Screen Selling is the fastest way to increase sales, productivity, and the customer experience. Screen to Screen Selling is a mindset before it becomes a skill set. Let's look at your beliefs.
or even like join.me.
Receive access to upcoming episodes of the Screen to Screen Selling Talk Show, special announcements, and insider resources. Davitri.co/screen to screen. Order Screen to Screen Selling from 800 CEO READ, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Books A Million, and McGraw-Hill Education.